KLTV audio check, KLTV audio check. KLTV audio check, KLTV audio check. KLTV audio check, KLTV audio check.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Mortensen, would you like to review the minutes, please?
Mr. Chairman, I did indeed review the minutes of the activities last week, and I move to approve those minutes.
Have a motion to approve. Any questions on the minutes? Let me pull up the. Just make sure I don't have any hands. Okay. See none, I would call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thank you. Consent agenda, we'll run through the consent agenda. I will point out today at 10 a.m. we have our Excellence in Service Awards. So if we run into the agenda looks pretty mild today, but if we run into that, we will take a break and do those awards at 10. On consent agenda, we have an agreement, contract bids, Washington State Department of Washington State Corrections, that we're extending a contract with them on. It's basically adjusting the per diem rate paid per department offender per day. And this raises the per diem rate is $98.91. It raises it to $103.85 through June of 24. No, I got that back. $98.91 through June of 24 and $103.85 through June of 25. So it extends that contract for 2 years with 5% raises each year.
So Mr. Chairman, for the audience, this is a contract that charges that department for the offenders who break their parole violations. They're out and they have to report regularly, and sometimes they don't, and they miss it. And that they get arrested, and it averages around about 4 at a time. So it's not a huge amount, but it's a little extra revenue stream for the jail operation.
Under board correspondence, the BOCC sent out a memo to Cowlitz County staff talking about the changes we've made within our staff. Voucher ratification for the drainage approved written district number 1 for $617.19. And then voucher totals in the amount of $1,365,047.19. Questions on the consent agenda?
I would like to comment on the letter that went out to staff. The people of the state of Washington take very seriously their right to have access to public documents, and we get requests all the time. And there are some deadlines that have to be met, and with as many people as we have handling public documents, we're always worried about some documents not being shared in a timely manner, just things falling through the gaps. So we're doing a little reorganizing and getting it centralized so that we can be more accountable on getting the document requests that are made in a timely manner. Penalties are quite steep, and of course it's penalties that are paid by the Cowlitz County.
Yeah, I'd like to add a key issue there also is how the clerk of the board is now an executive assistant and clerk of the board. And we will see, or you may have already seen, that on Mondays, we have Bailey Silva acting as the clerk of the board. A thing I found, and when I find is that important positions really need to have a proper duplication and succession plan kind of thing. So people do take vacation and there are any number of potential absences. And this way we don't leave the public a sea. There is a lot to be said in the memo. I'd read it over pretty carefully.
Mhm. And all, it probably doesn't need to be mentioned, but all the changes were made within the budget assigned to the commissioner's office. There was no adjustments needed.
Yeah, I think if I could also add, there is, our clerk of the board has been excellent at improving the visibility and performance for the public. So I think you'll all find that it's much easier to get onto Zoom. There's only a single login thing. Very much in the works also are things that will allow us not to send boxes upon boxes of paperwork to Olympia. And when I say boxes, I mean very much the plural. Actually, how many boxes do we send a month up there?
We do it at the end of the year, and I think we probably had at least 10 last year.
How much?
At least 10 boxes.
From BOCC.
Yeah, just from BOCC.
Yeah.
Plus she has to herd us.
That's the tough part I was hoping to
Yeah.
avoid.
Yeah.
I don't see any hands from the audience. Oh, we've got one. Good morning.
I didn't come here to talk about public records. Like I said, you got to have a body cam when you meet these people. No offense, Commissioner Mortensen, of all your accolades to your court clerks, and now you have a double title with double red tape. It's interesting to, now that there are no records in the auditor's office, there are missing in the state archives somewhere. It's really a comedy of errors. I have some formal research training in legal work. Like I said, I'm not going to comment anymore. It's just a comedy of errors.
Any other questions, comments on consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve today's consent agenda as presented.
Have a motion to approve. See no one approaching. I see no hands. I would call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thank you. Motion items today. Facilities maintenance.
Good morning, Commissioners. Will Tosted, Facilities Service Manager. On the agenda today for motion is a contract approval for jail cameras. This is the second of two projects approved by the Capital Improvement Committee. There was a larger project at the jail. They put in a request to the CIP committee that there was still some blind spots after they switched from analog to digital cameras. And this bid is for 8 cameras, programming, and all the network connections. We received one bid from Accurate Electric for a little over $72,500. They were the original installer of the camera project as well. So I have faith that that they will do a great job.
I saw a picture of the cameras and it's nothing like what we see here. It's a bulletproof camera. You cannot attach anything to it. You can't hang from it. It's what a jail needs, and therefore it's expensive.
Correct. Will, you mentioned something called the Capital Improvements Committee. The audience might not be familiar with that little feature of our facilities program.
Yep. So we have an allotted amount each year for our CIP capital improvements. And there's a section of that budget for tenant improvements. These are requests by managers around the county. We then vote on it as a committee. There's selected dates. Our next date is in February. And the committee grades each project that is submitted, and depending on the budget allocation, how much they go, it's either, you know, one to five or somewhere in their projects a year, depending on the cost.
How does the money enter the CIP account?
That's a good question. Sean Rowe would have to go into that a little further than myself.
Okay, probably Dennis, you could answer that.
We have a capital improvement fund specifically set aside for that.
Yeah.
Comes out of the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah, so and how much from the general fund?
Generally it's around 100,000.
Yeah, last year was 150, which allowed us to complete two projects, a courtroom 7 remodel, and this would be the second of those two projects.
Might be a useful discussion whether that should be a percentage rather than an absolute amount of dollars. A big thing I've mentioned in the past is that we own a lot of facilities, we the county, but upgrading them and maintaining them is something we tend to ignore. And $150,000 probably doesn't do it annually.
So to expand on that a little bit, as Arn said, a lot of since 2008, there was a lot of maintenance that wasn't done. So right now, since I've became into management, we are in the process of fixing a lot of the things that were end of life or broken. A lot of that is roofs, HVAC units. So that's really been a focus of those CIP funds majorly. The second part of that line item is for tenant improvements or requests from other departments.
Yeah, in terms of cameras also, we've got serious look into cameras for the Hall of Justice.
There is some ongoing security projects in the works as well.
Okay. I see,
Would you like a motion, Mr. Chairman?
please.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the bid award to Accurate Electric as has been discussed.
Have a motion on the floor. Any questions? Comments? See no hands, nobody approach. I call for vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Also vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's before we head into public comment, I will point out at this afternoon's workshop at 1:30. The major topic is we've been going over all things related to the budget, and the topic this afternoon will be mental health tax. Tomorrow workshop will be on retention policy. Monday, Board of Health, or next Tuesday, excuse me, Board of Health will be part of our meeting. November 1st, budget workshop would be road levies and general fund levy. And then November 8th, family promise of Cowlitz County. So we have a lineup coming. I'll touch on one thing before we get into public comment, just as to be it's been brought up at a workshop, but just so we're very transparent. And And I only bring it up because it's campaign season and there's a lot of stuff flying around. I've heard one campaign talk about the BOCC turning back a grant. And I'm not sure of the details of that. Maybe my colleagues remember, but I don't remember us turning one back. But I do know the building and planning just turned one back to the Department of Ecology. So just in real transparency, I think it was a $50,000 grant they wanted to give us so we could gather all information of shoreline permits and property owners that have shoreline permits and send them to Department of Ecology. And we said, we don't need that grant. So if the campaigns want to use that, we turn back another one. So just so you know. With that,
Oh, Mr. Chair.
yeah,
Going to your previous statement, hopefully people know all of the advertisement you gave is proper here, but it's also on the website itself. And I would always encourage people to check the website, probably, Kelly, how soon is the agenda posted on the website?
It's posted by 3 p.m. on Thursday.
On Thursday. Okay, so after that date, that time, it's a good thing to check. There was. The mind's a terrible thing.
okay. Public comment?
I won't take up too much of your time today. The Constitution of the United States, don't start a war without it and don't invade a foreign country. You all realize that. But we've fallen down on that since Roosevelt. We have troops in harm's way, we have sailors in harm's way, and nobody seems to be looking at this.
That's true about almost everything else too.
No, it's not. Will Rogers said, all I know is what I read in the papers. Before I go to this, the gentleman that was here last week, Tuesday, it seems he was having a little trouble redressing his grievances of government because there was some catcalls from the audience. Did you three commissioners address that?
Yeah, we asked. He quit,
Who quit?
the person in the audience.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Dahl. Like Will Rogers said, all I know is what I read in the newspapers. And since we're transitioning to the digital media, you have the candidates for city council, Mr. Wallen and Ms. LaFave. You really should look into both of those candidates, but that's not your venue, so I won't continue there. The most interesting one, Senator Wilson arrested in Hong Kong. And his aide up in Olympia said this will be addressed. Well, you know, when he gets back to the United States, first of all, carrying a weapon into a communist country, why don't you just charge the old Berlin Wall? I'm sure the East Germans would have addressed it right there at the wall, knowing members that I've known in the Berlin Brigade. Eyewitness, they shoot them. But the aide to Mr. Wilson said it's going to be addressed, $20,000 bail, transition to Hong Kong dollars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When he gets back to the United States, the method to address that is resign, both his Senate seat and his Port Commissioner seat. That's how you address it. I heard one back there. Right there. You gonna address it? I know he has fans. Right here in this hearing room.
Continue.
That's all I have to say.
Huh.
I can't think of a more stupid thing to do than carry a weapon into a foreign country. unless you're invading it.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm stepping out of line. But that is not anything that needs to be brought up here. That guy seems to have an education in every title there is. And coming up here and talking about that is just going to stir the pot. Let's just let the authorities take care of what needs to be. And, you know, the guy made a mistake. We know that. How about we just keep him in our prayers, okay?
Mr. Chairman, I have a very short, interesting anecdote.
Mhm.
We all know we're not supposed to fly with arms without special anything. And then one day I realized as I unpacked my backpack that from a shooting trip the day before, I had a couple of 22 LRs, just the cartridges that had spilled out of a box and were in there. I sweat that one out and it turned out nobody noticed. So I had a question about the TSA, but nevertheless, things do happen.
Yeah, it is interesting how he got out of the country.
I beg pardon?
It is interesting how he got out of the country with it in his
Yeah.
possession. So very strange.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with that. We've talked that, and I totally agree. It was a mistake. People make mistakes. He wasn't doing any harm. I have two questions. I believe it was a year ago, I'm not sure about the time frame, that the subject of moving all our work here in this building to the mall was brought up. Is that still in a process? Is that still a thought?
You know, we have a facilities committee that continually looks at
Mhm.
options available. So I can't ever tell you, I don't think I'd ever tell you it's dead, but I think there's been an ownership change at the mall, so I don't know what.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
give you a little bit about that. Probably 6 years ago, the handwriting was on the wall regarding the deferred maintenance and the immense costs. And prior to my coming on board, there was a study done called a Meng analysis, and it talked about all kinds of things. It's a pretty thick document. And if you go through there, it tries to assess what's here today and where we're going to be going tomorrow. Make a long story short, it became clear to me that we should think a little bit about what some options might be should we come to that point. So I began to talk to the mall owners. And there's some interesting attributes about doing something in the mall. It's really a good thing in many ways. And the only thing against that, I think, is in one sense emotional. Like, this is a nice building. It's a historic building, in my opinion. And abandoning that is almost like abandoning some of your identity. And this building isn't tremendously the problem, but the Hall of Justice is. It's not a suitable building. And that led to discussions of what can we do there? And all kinds of plans have been discussed. All those plans are still under discussion and on the table, because we know we have to do something. Just let me pose you what the real difficulty is. We have a moral, legal obligation to run the courts. How do you run the courts and refurbish the Hall of Justice at the same time? You essentially can't. Now, during COVID, we put a courtroom at the event center and we were paying $40,000 a month for that. But we have not just one courtroom, we have half a dozen. And what do we do? If we want to refurbish, we really have to move them someplace. And then move them back after we've done the work. That's a lot of money and a lot of disturbance. The idea would be to have a final facility where you'd go and you essentially abandon the Hall of Justice. So I could go on. This is just to give you a feel for the kind of discussion. And the committee, I think, have we agreed that that would be a task for our executive assistant to keep track of?
Well, I know I sit on that committee right now and in fact, we have a meeting not this Thursday, but the following Thursday and yeah, I'm sure Kelly's going to get exposed to a lot of these type of things because that's kind of a long-term problem. And I know the key, what the discussion revolves around a lot is that, as Commissioner Morton said, is the Hall of Justice. What you do there kind of defines what you do elsewhere. And so that needs some work. So it's just, you know, I can't say there's anything set in stone. There's just a lot of ideas and a lot of stuff come around.
Oh, it was just my thoughts that we have
Yeah.
happily been voting or watching you vote for improvements which are needed in this building and maintenance, which is needed and happily so. But I'm very Scotch as far as money goes. And as far as if something is going to happen, it should happen sooner than later. So we don't put out more money down a hole that we don't need, if you know what what I'm trying to say. Second question is.
Before you go there, there's one other thing I'd like to add, because we currently have a paradigm that says we, the county, the taxpayers, own the buildings. Another model there is where we lease the facility. We have some leases that we do, but now we're talking about a major shift. The Hall of Justice we own. Is that a good thing? And why I call that a paradigm shift? Because there are all kinds of interesting things. You heard 3 weeks ago where we were able at Public Works to do the culvert, do a culvert for considerably cheaper than what it would have cost us to contract it out. There are possibilities of advantage there where for our $10 million that we would spend, we would get 20 million bucks if we spent it through a lease. That kind of thing. It's complicated, unfortunately.
If I remember some of the discussions, there were certain offices that were not welcomed in the mall because you don't want it to interfere with the shopping public. So,
I see.
you know, we deal with certain clients that aren't necessarily the most desirable folks in a shopping sense. So
I had not thought of
so that
that.
limits us as well. We have to have the
Yeah.
appropriate location.
Okay. I had not thought about that, but thank you. There is
But-
one other question.
Continuing on that, with your leave, if you want me, I can stop.
Yeah.
The mall as it is now, I use the following example. You're a businessman in Omaha, Nebraska, and you're a manufacturer. You want to expand. You look and you find out Longview's got train, port, and even the Kelso Airport is suitable for a lot of things. So you think, I'm going to go there and see. So you fly into PDX, you drive and you see the mall and you stop and you go into mall. And if you are a businessman, you think, this is strange. It's so highly underutilized. What's going on here? You turn around, you go back to Omaha and said, okay, scratch that one off. There is a synergism that's available if we can be what I would call the anchor entity at the mall. And I think it would benefit everybody. Anyhow, it's complicated, like I said.
I understand that it'd be a huge anchor like one of the major chain stores. However, in my observation, the mall is poorly constructed, and I think you'd be dropping a huge amount of money trying to do what you want to do there. Also, since I can't be here on Wednesday, the retention policy now, is that for inmates that they'll be discussed? Jail inmates, the
Oh.
retention policy, what is that?
No, that's on records,
Yeah, oh, that's records. I
like,
see.
well, certain records you keep, like you need to keep emails for such and such years, and it clearly defines how long you keep a document.
Okay,
Right now, it's forever.
okay.
And it leads to boxes going to Olympia, and it leads to different
Okay.
things. So just trying to get cleaner on that.
Okay, I just had an
Yeah, if I could, it's,
question on that.
those distinctions are pretty complicated and there are rules that we have to abide by, and the rules are a stack of paper about like that. I think that's about right.
Oh, okay, I could say I thought it was that, and I had wanted to take and put my input in on, ever since we had the judge here the other day or several weeks ago. I've been upset. And I need to voice that with you guys. He admitted they have lobbyists. Why are not they using those lobbyists to put the bite on the rules and laws so that they can retain some of these reoffenders, the more obnoxious and harmful people of our community? Apparently they use the thing, well, we can't just put everybody in jail for shoplifting. And the more I thought about it, the more my hackles got up on the back of my neck, and I wanted to do something not very ladylike, because we don't expect them to put those particular people, they have to be punished. Right now, they're walking out the door. You go to Target, you can pick up anything. This is what I was told by a sales clerk, and just walk out. Nothing will happen to you, nothing. We can't allow that. That is not acceptable in our community. We cannot have people thumbing their nose at the law. And for the judge to think that, I don't have to worry about those small things, just the very, very major things like maybe murder, it was just not acceptable. We have to have a bite in every part of our laws, even the small ones, in order to enforce the bigger ones. When you have a small child, you don't let them take cookies off the table. You tell them no, you slap their hands or whatever you have to do to say no, and make the point, maybe it's one time, so that they know that there is a law, there's a consequence. They don't go on to the bigger offenses. And this is what I see in our community. They're not using what they can. If they have a lobbyist to strengthen those laws, they should be doing it. And why are not, I'm not saying that right. Why aren't they doing that? Why do we have to do it? They are trying to do the law. They are trying to enforce it as a judge. So they should be the ones that are going to stand up for us. And where is this man? He's just putting it off. And then he wants money to help with the greater growth of lawlessness due to his lack of enforcing the smaller laws. And I really wanted to say that to him. He's not here. I hope you guys can convey that message to him, because our community is not happy with the way that the offenders are being treated. They need to have consequences for their actions. And I don't know, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not offending anybody, but gosh darn, it's just not, they just have to be stopped. If you can walk out of Target or any other store and the higher ups tell them, it's not worth it, and not be hassled. It's just not acceptable here, not in our community.
Every Monday morning, one of the department heads that gives us a report is Marin Fox, who runs the jail. She's the manager, the director. And she keeps us informed on the census on a weekly basis. And it's much higher than it used to be a year ago. And she's also adding the kind of charges that are being brought in. So they have three types of prisoners. We talked about the parolees that violate parole, and they stay with us for a while. And then we have the people who are arrested, and they have to be in jail until they're charged and have an opportunity to get bail. And then the people who are convicted of crimes, and they're sentenced to less than a year. So if they're convicted of a crime or it's a, serious crime, a felony crime, then, and they go over a year, that gives them a ticket to a state prison. Okay. So one of the things that has been happening is that in the effort to try to save money on prison costs, they're looking at changing the sentencing guidelines. And you know what that means? Instead of a year getting you to state pen, they're going to make it a year and a half or 2 years, which means we get saddled with the extra costs. And so I know the Superior Court judges locally have been fighting that whole notion. The serious crimes need to be taken out of the community and the state pens.
But if they were to see the whole picture, Dennis, the thing of it is, if you let people take advantage of you and we have for a while, they're going to continue. Once they understand, and the word will get out, that if you do a certain crime, you are going to get the consequence. You will eventually, might take a year, might take a year and a half, you will have fewer people committing that level of crime. So yes, at first you will get more. You'll be overwhelmed with people coming in. And then eventually it'll go, you know what? We can't do this in Cowlitz County. Let's go somewhere else.
So we have one of the facts that she's been sharing with us, the data that she's been sharing with us, the number of people arrested for shoplifting has gone up. Same thing with petty theft. You may notice homeless people don't push around shopping carts anymore because they started getting arrested for it. They're on bikes and they have trailers that look like they're broken down wagons, but there's been some change in the law and more people are going in.
Okay.
One of the challenges that the judges have is that their procedures and precedents are set by the higher courts.
And that's what I'm addressing.
And that's
what I'm addressing. See, they have the power. They have the lobbyists to do what I'm asking to be done.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it.
Well,
And that's what it needs to be addressed. They need to be encouraged to use those lobbyists to help them do their job. I think. I don't know. I'm sorry. I have to get off my platform, but I had to say that.
Okay.
Sorry.
We have a hand up. Go ahead. Tom.
Just a second, if I could
Yeah.
follow up on that. I think those were appropriate comments and concerns. It's a fine line to decide what a separation of powers issue would be. A couple of weeks ago, the judge, one of the judges gave us the thought about repeated the value of separation of powers. And it's really interesting. It's our job to figure the money out, and it's the judge's job to uphold the law and to help enforce the law. And that boundary is crossed frequently. On the one hand, when the citizenry, like the lady who just spoke with, says, "Why didn't you do this?" The typical response has been, well, the legislature requires that. And sometimes it's true, sometimes it isn't. Nevertheless, the forgiveness for shoplifting or a petty crime of some kind is really, I think, correctly assessed by the lady as the seed of a lot of upcoming evil or upstream evil. Downstream evil.
I think there's a terminology misuse here. The courts don't enforce the law. They dispense justice. We have sheriffs and police who enforce the law. They're the ones that arrest, and then they have the process to decide, did the government get it right? Do they have the overwhelming evidence that the crime was committed? So there's, it's interconnected, definitely interconnected, but the judges don't enforce the law.
Okay.
That's the justice part, yeah.
We've had a hand up for a while. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, commissioners. The elderly woman who was just sitting at the microphone, It's kind of ironic. She's got some complaints about shoplifting and whatnot, and the cost that's going to, add to the taxpayer for incarceration, which is extremely expensive. $700 for the first day, and then $100 every day thereafter. But I wanted to point out, she is the individual who lied about the number of participants at Hope Village. So last week when I mentioned that individual, she is the person I was speaking of. She lied when she said only 19 people stay at Hope Village at any given time. That is factually incorrect. Also, Commissioner Mortensen, he just admitted, and it's quite ironic that he did, that we have a moral and legal obligation to maintain our courts. It's funny, though, that that moral obligation was nowhere to be found when the Superior Court was met with derision and contempt over their expansion of a sixth justice. And Commissioner Mortensen and Dahl both admitted that their reason for doing that was ultimately to deny a future, presumably Democratic governor from having the ability to make that appointment before that judge would then, eventually face an election. That is not impartially delivering your, behaving as your office demands you do. You're explicitly inserting partisanship where there should be none. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
I wanted to follow up on what Flo was talking about shoplifting. I think the stores themselves are in a position where they have chosen not to enforce shoplifting. Probably because they call the police and the response is late, or it could be that they're afraid of lawsuits, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty sure that the management of the stores has told employees not to confront anybody. I ran across a lady yesterday, and this is the second one that I've run across in probably the last month. She has made it, she's an ex-store clerk or something to that effect. And she's not employed by them anymore, but she now when she goes to the store, she can automatically see the people that are lining up to do stuff. And they've got a whole process where somebody will fill a basket, set it near the door, they walk away from the basket, and then somebody from outside comes in and tries to retrieve the basket. Well, she's becoming an expert at spotting that stuff. And so when she's in the store doing her normal shopping, she watches for that. And when somebody leaves one, she goes and retrieves it and takes it away from them, or brings it back behind the counters and gives it back to the clerks. And she says the people in the store, the employees, are just very, very thankful to have somebody like her coming in and actually taking action. But that's the predicament our whole society is getting in. We got people that choose to do whatever they're doing. And the legal system is against people, the employers being responsible. We don't have the police that we need so they can respond to that kind of reporting. And now what you're seeing is the citizens themselves are starting to step up and take the position of what the whole system should be doing. So yes, that's a very rampant. I ran into another lady about a month ago. She saw it and she found it in multiple stores. So I think I get the impression that people are starting to recognize and starting to take action on that. And that may be the numbers that Fox is talking about. I don't know, but it's rampant. And I run into two people now in the last month that have kind of told me the ins and outs of it.
So I'm worried. I have this image of you running into these people with your shopping cart. You're not doing that, are you?
No, not me.
Okay.
I
Right.
have a red hat.
Okay,
Yeah, certain people see my red hat and they react. So
good.
So an interesting thing about your observation is that I believe the ultimate consequence of that is stores will suffer too much of a loss, and they'll be unable to transfer that cost to the paying clientele. So they only have one other choice, which is to close down. And when they close down, it means that we will be doing our shopping through eBay and Amazon.
Yep.
And I think that's what's in the future. And then people will probably make a business there of you can buy a container to put in front of your house that is a place to receive your parcels, and it's hardened.
yeah. Well, we know in the bigger cities how many chain stores have closed and moved out. Well, those are the very neighborhoods that need the jobs and need all the services that come along with those stores. So, I mean,
That's the pernicious nature there when you and somehow, whether intentionally or unintentionally, you subsidize crime.
yeah, well, and Giuliani figured it out, 25 years ago, you let the small stuff go. And then you just, it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Flo was talking about.
Yep.
Anybody else?
You have a hand up?
I do.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Carol. Sorry. Carolyn.
You're muted, Carolyn.
Sorry, I was patiently waiting for an opportunity when I didn't see other people waiting to speak. So good morning, and I just wanted to ensure that the public has accurate information. So I do need to correct a comment that was made about Auditor's Office historical records. So all record books were physically surrendered to Washington State Archives in 2020. However, they are currently being digitized and indexed so that they can be publicly available for free with easy search terms. So the project right now is about half complete, and it's just taking an incredible amount of time due to the indexing of the records. But until the project is complete, any member of the public can request a document for free to us or to Washington State Archives. They are there. I went up myself, took pictures of them, brought them back. They are there. So just wanted to correct that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, we have excellence in service awards at 10. We can recess for a few minutes before then.
Sure.
We will recess and reconvene at 10. Yeah.
Morning, Marcia. Morning, Judge. Well, thank you. You know Marcia Treadway?
Yes.
Oh.
We have met numerous times.
And I know his wife well, because her office is right next door. So.
Oh, yeah, that's stupid darn thinking that you might know somebody that a longtime resident doesn't know. But anyhow,
You gotta remember, I'm like fifth generation.
yeah.
And unfortunately, I've not been able to hide it. So everybody.
So you get around, and I've been getting around too. Oh, we'll make it halfway.
Close to the
I gotta follow your.
I want. So we do have. Agencies coming. It's a situation.
That's because.
So.
Yeah. Don't. I wrote. That when I'm sitting in the days. I don't have. My personal. Rather than.
I've seen it time and time again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. It's a,
Okay. We're at the point where employee excellence awards. Let me read a little thing, how people get on this list, and then we conduct it. The three commissioners will come out front and use a handheld mic and do it that way. But the success of Cowlitz County depends largely on the work contributions of the county's employees. Excellence in Service awards are issued yearly to honor and recognize individual county employees, excluding elected officials who demonstrate outstanding service and true excellence in their job performance. In order for an employee to be chosen for a service award, their nomination must be based upon the performance during the preceding 12-month period and upon one or more of the following: extraordinary excellence in service, special effort in changing a practice or procedure that saves time and money, innovation in delivering service, a contribution out of the normal work effort or above and beyond the person's normal duty, outstanding job performance, consistent performance of their duties in a manner highly reflective of competency. You shouldn't use these big words. Exceptional personal qualities, dedication, performance, and professionalism, improvement of conditions within the department or for various departments. We have 7 nominees. Where do you want them to go? Because I know you have a little blurb on each. Okay, as I call the names, you just want them like in front of this podium here? Okay. As I call your name, if you want to come in and stand in front of that there, and then when we get everybody up, the commissioners will come around and we'll complete it. David Feldman.
David is an incredible asset to the county and comes to us with years of experience. I believe the reason he is here is because there is lots of work to be done, and there is a lot of opportunity to do good and really make a difference. Whether it's optimizing existing systems to work better or come up with new ones altogether, David is doing great work behind the scenes to help staff and citizens alike. He was nominated by Jordan Cole.
Janet Philbin.
Jeanette recently took over management of the spray shop and has appeared to make it her own. She has worked with her counterparts in various road shops and districts to establish a database of areas that need treatment. I've had the opportunity to work with her as the diking engineer and manager, and when she started, she sat down with me to determine the areas we needed sprayed. As she progressed through the season, she checked in with me to verify the areas were being treated appropriately and any areas that we didn't initially consider. This has minimized the amount of mowing and vegetation management required around the reservoirs, pumps, stations, and levees. She was nominated by Patrick Harbison.
Larry Hembry. Okay.
Larry has worked tirelessly in engaging in the community in disaster preparedness. He has especially focused on including marginalized community members. Larry has developed outstanding relationships with the local businesses to deliver emergency preparedness. He was awarded the Washington Association of School Administrators Community Leadership Award for Outstanding Community Leadership and Contributions to the Improvement of Public Education for his work with the school district in developing the Cowlitz School Safety Summit. He was nominated by Scott Neves.
Christy Masters.
Christy is an amazing individual that always exhibits a positive, encouraging attitude. She is excited to learn and always there to assist with anything that is needed. Everyone in the office loves Christy. She is a joy to work with and is a true blessing to all those she comes in contact with. We are so blessed to have such a true gem on our team and a true asset to our community. I cannot speak highly enough about Christy Masters. She was nominated by Dana Tucker.
Riley McNeil.
Sergeant McNeil has been with the Sheriff's Office for 13 years. He was promoted to the patrol sergeant in 2021 and previously served in our investigation unit. His work on the Donnie Howard homicide in Woodland showcased his outstanding work ethic. Sergeant McNeil continues to provide extraordinary service as a patrol sergeant, both in effectively managing emergency calls and mentoring new deputies at the Sheriff's Office. He was nominated by Troy Brightbill.
Angie Myers.
Angie Myers has grown into a leadership role in not only the drug court department, but all of Superior Court. Her broad scope of knowledge and flexible ability to work with coworkers, team members, and clients inspires and mentors those who work with and around her. She is the one on our team that does the little things that keep our projects moving forward and our department running cohesively. Her past professional experiences and nuanced knowledge of computer programs have improved the quality of interactions with our clients. People are happy to see and be with her because of her positive and uplifting attitude. Her professionalism, skill, and compassion motivate our clients and stakeholders to improve and become something greater. She was nominated by the Superior Court judges.
Bailey Silva.
Bailey has been seen going above and beyond her job requirements. Her customer service is extraordinary to both public citizens and county departments. Bailey is continuously creating processes, training, tip sheets, and policies for public records and retention and sharing them with her coworkers. She has provided important feedback on any changes, engaging on creating the changes, and embrace the changes with an excellent attitude. Bailey is a joy to have in the office. Her attitude is always positive to everyone who walks through the door. And she was nominated by me.
By you. Okay, I would ask the commissioners to join me around front. I believe we have, I'll do this. They can hand out the plaques. We have plaques to hand out to all recipients for their work here. And this is, you don't get to see, Furby Reed also works in our office, and you don't get to meet her very often, but she sits at the front desk, so. Larry Hembry. Steve Masters. Riley McNeil, Sergeant McNeil had to put up with me in a ride along. He should get something for that all by himself. Angie Myers. And Bailey. Okay, and we have to decide on 3 to do that. It's not always an easy task, but I just see the name. The 3 that were chosen: Angie Myers, Sergeant McNeil, and Jeanette Philbin. Thank you to all of you. We appreciate everything you do for us, and I don't know if how we could express it anymore. We just really appreciate the service to the county and everything you do.
So I noticed people with one.
Hey, thank you to my colleagues for that. I think that's the end of the day.
Unless someone wants to make a comment.
I don't see any. We will adjourn. Thank you.